Hey guys, what's going on? We are going to tie up the Prince Nymph today, the bead-headed Prince Nymph. Great little stonefly, guess mayfly imitation. Yeah, I've had great luck with this fly. Caught a bunch of really big fish on a river in Colorado when the fish were just honed in on this particular fly, and it seemed like every run we went through was just kind of big fish after big fish. It was pretty awesome. So I like this fly. Continue to fish it all the time, and so yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Tying this on a Daiichi 1710 nymph hook, 2x long, so a little bit longer than normal. I've already made a few wraps, lead-free wire. Build up a little thread bump, and then we'll just take a few wraps over the wire to secure everything down. The tail of this fly is made with goose buyouts, which aren't always the easiest to work with. So what I'm gonna do is build up just a little bit of a thread bump in the back, and when we tie our goose buyouts in, that's gonna help it to it's gonna help the buyouts to flare out a little bit. So let me grab a hold of these guys. So you can see when you pinch them together, you want to try to pinch them together so that they kind of fray out from each other. And I'm going to try to lay these down on the side of the hook. And then first couple wraps will be relatively light. I'm just kind of move these until they get roughly to where we want them. And then we can tie that down. And I'll let you take a look at what that looks like. Get those secured down good and tight. And if you can see that, you can tell that that little thread bump that we put back there will keep those buyouts from pinching together. All right, now we'll tie in our rib. You can kind of use any color, copper wire, maybe even a piece of tinsel, but I'm using small, just regular small copper wire for this one. I've seen it with gold, or I don't know if that really matters too much. And then we'll tie in a few pieces of peacock herl. Always make sure you got the junk at the bottom, so make sure you trim that off. And tie those in by the base. And you can twist the peacock herl together to keep it from spreading out as you wrap this forward, but don't usually have too much of an issue just wrapping it straight forward. Go all the way up to just behind the bead. A couple wraps to tie that in. There we go. Now I'm just gonna go the opposite direction with the copper wire. Not only helps to rib the fly, but it also helps to keep the peacock herl in place if it does happen to break, because that's pretty brittle. Can helicopter that off. All right. Now for the legs of this fly, I just had a leftover piece of hackle laying around. I'm not usually too particular about the hackle on these. What I do when you tie it in though is trim. You kind of want to trim the tips of the hackle down so that when you tie that piece in, the thread's got something to grab onto. And then I'm just gonna do a couple wraps. Tie that off. And then we're just just gonna pull the hackle back. I'm gonna try to pinch everything together. And then just a couple wraps over the hackle should push that back. And I don't like having the hackle fibers on the top, so I'm gonna trim those off because the buyouts on the top are gonna need something to lay down against. And for the horns, I guess you can call them, we're using just white buyouts. And this, you can pinch the two of them together, I guess, if that works best. I tie them in one at a time. So I'll tie it in and it's gonna go basically back to the end of the hook. We kind of lay it down at an angle. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but once I get that where I want it, I'm gonna trim it off and then tie it down immediately. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of at the right angle that we wanted. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the second one. And so we're going to lay that one down the opposite direction. Trim it first. And tie it right over the top. There we go. All right, and now we can bring in our whip finish. And that's it. Got a couple hackle fibers that got trapped there, so we'll trim those off. Add a little head cement, and that is our bead-headed Prince Nymph. Take a look at it from the top. It's a great little fly. I'm just going to trim a tiny bit more of this. Great little fly. Yeah, it works just about everywhere I've been. So it's one that I got a whole bunch of in my fly box, and it's not the most difficult fly to tie. So tie a bunch up and get out there and see what happens. Thanks for watching, and good luck out there.